Hello and welcome to episode 13 of My Imperfect Knitting Life, which is a space where I talk about my knitting, my mini commercial spinning mill, and also a bit about life. So today is going to be very little about my knitting, quite a lot about my spinning mill, and also quite a lot about things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. So if you watch my vlog podcast, then you probably know that I'm in America at the moment. My first visit. It's amazing. Visiting my son, and at the moment I'm in New Hampshire visiting Marina, or Marina is hosting me and has taken me to Junction Fiber Mill. So I think I should just go back to the tiny little bit of knitting I've done.
Yeah, I think
I'm going to be asking you questions, and then you're going to ask me a couple of questions.
I'm good,
and I'm sure that we will fill up a lot of.
We will.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Okay.
We'll be fine. No worries.
So, no worries. It's a Kiwi saying, but I'm sure they say no worries in many, many other countries.
Yes, and we're spreading it around as fast as we can.
Yeah,
it's and a in good fact, thing to say.
I definitely know in Australia they say no worries. Did you like my Australian accent?
I liked it, yes, very much.
All right, so I actually have two finished objects. I forgot to take a photo of one of the finished objects, but apparently someone's going to send me a picture of their little person wearing it. So if I don't have it in this podcast, then I will have it in the next one and show you that. But I could have actually shown the Mud Puddles pattern.
You could have. Next time.
I might still do that if you...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, might put the Mud Puddles picture at the end to show...
That's a good idea, yeah.
All right. So I made two items, and they're both for little Maeve, who is the daughter of Amanda from Junction Fiber Mill. And the one was made in Angora, and it's this is the only way I can show it to you because I've given it to her today. And it's top down. It's the same as the one that I made one of my grandchildren. I've forgotten which one. Isn't that terrible? And it's made in New Zealand Angora, 100% Angora, Mahana, by a company called Skeinz. And Marina very kindly gave me 3 antique buttons to put on it. So it really is a lovely soft yarn, and Amanda was very happy with it, which is lovely. And the other thing that I made is Mud Puddles. I will have to put down here somewhere who the Mud Puddles pattern is by, and it is also a gorgeous top-down raglan pattern specifically for girls. It has little puff sleeves, which you sort of increase a lot at the after the collar. You can choose how much puff you have, and then when you've finished doing the sleeve and you've finished the yoke part and you're going to cast off the stitches, just before you do that you decrease those stitches to get the puff as well, and then you sort of knit along the front, do the decreases, go round, knit across the back, do the decreases, and then on the next row the next 3 rows you do reverse stockinette on the sleeves, and then when you get to cast off and do the body, you literally cast off the sleeve stitches, knit in the back, cast off the other sleeve stitches, and then when you join it in the round you just add a couple of stitches underarm, and off you go. Keep knitting until you get to the hem. So the really nice thing as well is that it's an easy knit to take around with you, and I love short sleeves.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Honestly, I feel like I can't go wrong with toddlers and short sleeves. I even feel like, they always mucky up their cuffs and they get caught on things.
Really well.
Yeah, I love short sleeves, but you say you don't do many short sleeves.
No, because we live in New Hampshire, so there's a lot of times when you want to have long sleeves because it's so cold.
And then your houses are so well insulated and warm that you can go around and
start a new movement.
T-shirts and shorts inside in the winter, can you?
That's true too.
Yeah, because it's like that in Norway. I remember when I went to Norway to visit my sister in the winter, I was opening the window and the doors, I was so hot. I just couldn't believe how hot the house was.
Yeah. Some people keep their house very hot because they're so cold when they go out that it takes them half an hour to warm up. But I tend to like to keep my house cool.
Cool, yes. Yeah. Especially for sleeping.
Yeah, definitely.
So Amanda has it was in a purple purple color, which I dyed myself, and I made that one out of a possum merino, which I know was like a Naked by Skeinz yarn, but I don't think they sell it anymore, the possum merino, and I've had that a few years. I actually dyed that up previously and made something for one of the other grandchildren. I think it might have even been the exact same pattern but a bigger size on that one. But she's going to send me a picture of little Maeve wearing it because it's her birthday on Sunday, and she said she's going to put her in the little purple one for her birthday. So I will post up a picture sometime of that. That's really my knitting bits.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I feel like we should talk about you and I and how...
Yes, you go right ahead. I want to hear how we met. Well,
yes, and you interject whenever you feel like it. Just pop your words in.
I will do.
All right. And, okay, so when I decided I was coming to America to see Patrick, I didn't know anything about Junction Fiber Mill. I hadn't even, my machines hadn't even arrived, and I honestly thought the machines would come, I'd pop them where they needed to be, and I would be zoom off, making yarn, making fleece, you know, making carded wool and all sorts of things. So of course it was a bit of an eye-opener when they turned up, and I don't know if it was the transportation or what, but they weren't working properly at that point, and I know they were working fine at the other end. So but anyway, and I had gone on the internet and was looking at any mini commercial spinning mill around the world, and was looking at the process of producing fleece and processing fleece and producing yarn. And I one day saw this commercial mill, mini commercial mill, that looked exactly like mine. So I was like, really, oh, what are they doing over there? You know, and looking, and it was Junction Fiber Mill. I was so excited. I was like telling, you know, Roger and Judy and Millie, I was telling everybody, I found this mill just like mine. And then I was avidly watching all of their mill casts. It wasn't originally called a mill cast. They kind of developed that name. And what was great was they started going through the process of how they scoured their fleece, how they picked the fleece, and they showed each of the machines, and that showed me again the process. And what was useful about that was it was particular to sheep, because of course Julie did alpaca. Anyway, so I've now found Junction Fiber Mill. I already had my ticket to come and see Patrick in California, and then I just thought at some point, these people have so much knowledge. Could I be cheeky enough to ask them, can I please come and basically suck the knowledge out of you, utilize it for my mill? And I contacted Amanda and asked her that, and cut a long story short, because I think I talked about it in the previous vlog, they said yes. But prior to that, I had a message from Marina, or a comment from Marina on my podcast saying, I live only an hour away from Junction Fiber Mill.
That is right.
Yeah, and if you get yourself up here,
I'll take you. So here we are.
And what happened after that, Marina?
After that, the next podcast, Denise says, I looked and looked and looked and I can't find that message. But if you're listening, please send me an email, because I'd love to take you up on the offer. So anyway, we sorted it out by email, and we picked her up at the airport, and she's been with us for 3 or 4 days now.
And it's been wonderful.
And
I feel like you're an old friend.
Yeah.
We only just met.
And it turned out that I had friends who knew all these things that were just what she wanted to know, including a friend who had worked way back at the original small production mill in Vermont, Greenmountain Fiber. And she gave us a private tour, which was awesome. And the whole thing was fabulous. The machines were amazing.
I'm going to put some pictures up of our visit to Mountain Spinnery. It goes to Greenmountain Spinnery.
And we also went to a sheep farm, which was fun. And they had, they produce fiber, but they also produce cheese. And yeah, we've just done nothing but meeting wonderful people, haven't we?
It's been fabulous. And great. I have been so spoilt by Marina and Joe.
It's been
I
really
feel like,
fun.
you know, I just can't even say how spoiled I've been.
We're going to see her on North Island at some point
Yes,
because
we're
we
gonna
have a
spoil her.
daughter who's moved to the South Island.
Yes. So
And
your
so-
daughter is a vet.
It's a dairy vet,
Yeah.
in Canterbury.
And what
Plains.
happened when you went to go visit her, Marina?
Oh, yes. I went to visit her in 2020, and I went for a month. My husband and I went for a month, and we stayed in lockdown for a total of 3 months. So
And
we're
you only
kind
had
of...
carry-on luggage.
And we only had carry-on luggage and knitting needles, but the day before lockdown, I was able to stack up on about 10 skeins of yarn. So he played the guitar, and I
But we
knit.
didn't even know how long we were going to be in lockdown,
No,
did we?
we could have been there for 6 months.
Yeah.
But we ran away. We really didn't want to run away. But we went home at the end of May. And having knitted, played the guitar, hiked the mountains, and lived out of 2 carry-ons for 3 months, best thing. Was
Except
wonderful.
you didn't see your daughter as much as you expected because...
Oh, yeah, because she
she's
was
an essential worker.
essential worker, you know, being basically taking care of, you know, calving cows.
Yeah.
And so we ended up going all the way to New Zealand to see her, and we had to see her
Through the window?
from a window.
Oh.
But it's okay. We were still in the same, at least we were on the same continent,
Well,
or
and,
the same hemisphere, as a matter of fact. So,
and you got to be in her environment, which is kind of what I'm doing with Patrick. So you,
Yeah.
And then when lockdown finished, you did get a few days.
get
How
a
many
few
days
days.
did you get?
Oh, I think it was a few weeks where we could travel. Well, we couldn't
Yeah.
still not go to the North Island, but we could travel anywhere we wanted on the North Island.
On the South Island.
On the South Island,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But you know, the interesting thing is, as I observe the welcome that Dini's gotten here, it was the same welcome we got in New Zealand, and that's why I had the urge to invite her
Pay it
to
forward.
help her,
Yeah.
to pay it forward, because in New Zealand, everybody was so nice to us.
It's easy to be nice to you, Marina.
It's easy to be nice to you. Same thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had lots of chats, my husband Joe and I, and we have lots in common, and we could go on forever, but from a purely fiber point of view, it's been
Yeah.
a fabulous visit for both of us.
Because actually
really.
you said that when you came to Junction Fiber Mill as well, you really didn't understand, or you got an eye-opening in terms
Yeah,
of how
I
much.
understood a little bit, but you know, I'm always in awe, having seen sheep and having seen untreated fleece, that I have this beautiful yarn to work with. But to see it actually made from machine to machine to machine, from the wash, it is just unbelievable. Yeah, it's really quite wonderful to see that.
And it is, they call it artisanal wool, and it is.
Yeah.
You know, like it's that scale. If you have 200 or 500 spools that you set up, once you've set them up and they're running, you've got the economy of scale. But when you're doing, I think Junction Fiber Mill do a minimum of 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So that, I think it's 10 pounds. So that's could be a couple of fleeces, could be 3 fleeces in one go. And you're putting the same sort of amount of effort. A lot of effort goes into working out the twist per inch, the weight to take it from the pin drafter to the spinner, and all of those things. And so you get a lot of intensity of having to work those things out and put things up for less spools, less volume going through.
Yeah.
And it really gives you an appreciation of how much work goes into that skein of yarn that you get at the end. Yeah, so what do you think is our next step in terms of, should I talk about Junction Fiber Mill a little bit now?
Yeah, if you want to, that's so interesting. And the funny thing is, I had just, there is a lady in Lebanon who has a shop called the Woolly Thistle, and she had just said very proudly, we're now carrying Junction Fiber Mill yarn, and this was a week before Dini came here, so it was quite amazing. Yeah, it's a very small fiber world, I think.
It is. Okay, so we went to Junction Fiber Mill on Monday and did, I was interviewed for the Millcast, which was a lot of fun. And then on Tuesday, Marina and I and Dr. Holly, lovely Holly, we went and had a look at the spinnery. We saw the sheep. What else did we do? We came back, and then you had your daughter's lovely partner parents came.
Yes.
Because they're coming to visit New Zealand, and so we had a good chat and
They're
catch
going,
up.
I'm a little jealous. They're going in October.
Yeah.
I'm not going till next February, probably.
Yeah. and then the next day you took me back again to the fiber mill, and I literally spent the whole day observing, asking questions, being explained all the different machines. I was really doing a lot of videoing, but this is typical me. When I thought I was videoing, it actually wasn't recording sometimes, and then when I thought I'd turned it off, then it started recording the floor, the side of the machines. So fortunately I got to go back today and kind of repeat some of that stuff. I sat down and jotted a whole lot of information that I wanted to remember too, but my mind was like with all the information that was in it, because I have been able to problem shoot and talk about things that have come up for me and seek their advice, and they have showed me things that they do and that I just didn't even know I could do. They've got bits of equipment that are so useful that I don't have, that I can work on getting. But I left there thinking, I really need to just deal with all of this that's in my mind now, go home, and I'm going to try and immerse myself like for a month. I was saying that I don't think I can do midwifery when I first go there. I really just need to spend the time unraveling all of that wonderful knowledge and information. And again, so generous, they've said to me, feel free to ask us more questions when you're ready. So yes, like I say, watch the space. Let's see what happens there.
And you can tell they just love what they do, and they've got it down to a finely tuned machine, don't they?
They do.
I could tell, me not knowing how the machines run, I could just walk in there and say, wow, everything is just going tickety-boo. It's all
well, you know, I think I said on my Instagram, the dream team, and they are a dream team. They work really well together. They communicate really well. They kind of quite flexible in what they do as well, although Amanda has her things that she's you know, she does the web stuff and designing and stuff like that. They've got a couple of employees, and everybody just gets in there and does their thing, finds their groove. What shall I do now? What shall I do today? So you know, it's great. I think actually being able to share that with somebody does make a big difference, and I get to do that with Judy, but you know, she's got the beekeeping to do.
Yeah. I also think that if you know how to do something very well, the next place that you can really fine-tune what you know is by trying to explain it to somebody else.
Yes.
That's really rewarding as well.
Yes. Because you learn by teaching as well.
You learn by teaching, A lot of learning happens by teaching.
Yeah.
They clearly enjoyed having you there. That was obvious. That was fun.
Yes, they were very nice. And you know, you're in this fine point of view. I want to get information, I want to ask questions, but I don't want to detract from their business day so much that it's actually impacting on their ability to push things through.
Production,
and you know, I was saying to you, Marina, that you know, would it be nice to have put I call it the thread. We call it putting up. Is the putting up the threads on the spinning machine, but number one, it was a consignment, so it was for somebody else, and I didn't want to waste anything, and I know I would have been slower, so I didn't I just watched and observed. But then they said, oh, do you want to do some picking? And it's like, that's like, you know, it's a really important part of the process, but you know, you don't need a hell of a lot of skill for that. But I was like, oh, I'm contributing a little bit here, so I felt quite good about that.
That's good.
And yeah, their pick is very different to mine, and I learned so many things, which I will talk through at each point when I get home, because I don't want to
That'll be real interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So do you want to ask me anything, or shall I ask you something?
Well, I kept thinking about this whole thing because it's so I'm a maker also. I like to make things. I like to work with my hands. But this is a whole different dimension. So I'm wondering, I was really curious as to whether Jeannie's going to be able to do things at the mill more than she thought she was going to be able to do before she went to visit Fiber Junction Mill.
Absolutely.
And that's really worthwhile.
Absolutely. I think that I really got my head around some of the processes, and I'm also aware of some things I need to do more reading and studying and learning about, but I have a better context for it now.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, I was quite fortunate that I was a hand spinner, so you understand things like twist per inch, wrap per inch. You understand that, you know, if you're going to ply, you need to do certain things. But I've never been, well, I'm what I call I just spin because I like the feel of it, and I'm probably spinning a very uniform product most of the time. I'm not getting that variation. But obviously when you're when you're producing for other people, if somebody wants a fingering weight, or if somebody wants a worsted weight. Hi Joe, we're recording the podcast. We should get Joe to come say hello. I think he will. All right.
Good luck.
We won't make him. So if you're doing a fingering weight or a worsted weight, understanding what it is you need to do. So I definitely learnt
how to do
a lot more about that. Yeah. So, my friend Judy, she knows about that on the spinning wheel side. And I know when I kind of show her these things, including their spreadsheets, she's going to be like, ding, 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 because she's like a maths person and I am not.
Really great. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, so where you are, I'm curious where you're going to obtain your fleece. So you could always buy them, but are you going to eventually find local people who have a small flock and have a hard time getting their yarn processed? And then you would be the kind of person who would take small fleeces, small loads.
All right, so buy the fleece for myself and process it, or process it for them?
Well, that's the question.
Both.
Which way? You want to do both?
Oh dear, as my little granddaughter Freddie would say,
but it's all fixed now. The battery went off. But I was just going to ask you, I'm really interested in this because I know so many people who have just a few sheep, just a few alpacas, and they can't find anybody to process their wool because it's not enough. So are you going to find people like that? Are they going to find you? What do you envisage doing with the mill?
All right, so when I first got the mill, I couldn't even see to that point, and I knew that people were asking, are you going to do that? Because they want that service. So I will be doing it, but I don't feel I can offer that service until the quality of the product that I can produce is good enough to do for other people. So I'm going to be doing a lot of it for myself. So at the moment, I literally, as I've explained, I'm given free fleece, which I am using to learn on with the mill. What I want to do for me is I would like to also connect with farmers that have small flocks of particular breeds that are really good for the mill or really good for yarn, and see if I can make a deal or a plan with them about their fleeces. That is part of it. And also, yes, I will hopefully at some point be able to do some commission work. Commission work, whether that's just carding, because there's a lot of spinners that want nice carded fleece, and they're also interested in where did it come from. They want the provenance that goes with that. And when I go back in May, on the 20th of May, I've actually got to get enough carded fleece through for some hand spinners when I go to there's a Rotorua spin-in, and I've committed myself to producing some. So Judy and I have managed to get through about 4 so far, and I don't think if it's just going through the carding machine it's actually going to take us a lot of time. I reckon 4 or 5 days of just pumping stuff through that and making different combinations, because you don't want lots of the same. And I'm going to do some dyed up stuff as well, because people like that too. They like dyed up bits. Then I'm going to have that as my first goal of producing something that somebody else is going to pay for.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to like this one.
Yeah, ask it.
So are you going to get more sheep?
No. And the only reason why I'm not going to get more sheep is I don't have a big enough piece of land.
Oh, I see.
Now, my son Jonathan and his partner, his wife and family live on land that they've subdivided off the family farm, and they mainly do dry stock, which is beef cows on the property. But if I could, maybe if I wanted to, could have a little bit of area for sheep. But I honestly feel like there are so many people around that have bits of land that, maybe I'd be able to rent a couple of paddocks and put some sheep on it.
Or maybe you'll find that there's many more people than you think that need you to process their fleece for them.
Or buy their fleece from them to counteract or balance out the cost of having the shearing done, because they're literally, like I say, throwing it away.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only thing I talked to you about this before is on our property, there's plenty enough grass in the summer, and in fact our sheep can't get through all the grass, but in the winter there wouldn't be enough for more than two sheep. We are feeding out extra nuts and feed for them in the winter. So the only thing I thought of was, do I want to have a couple of lambs in the summer to put in the freezer for winter as part of my kind of sustainable life stuff? And I would do that. So Roger and I talked about that recently, and we'll see if we do that next.
And could you do that with the sheep you have now?
Absolutely.
The Gotland, they're okay for eating.
They're okay for eating, but I don't want to eat them. They're kind of pets.
No, but if they had lambs, would you eat them?
Well, one is a wether, so he won't be doing anything, and the other's a female, and
she's too old.
Might be easier just to get some lambs that people don't want.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, and once they're past, once they're weaned, often people will sell those off.
The males.
So we'll see.
That makes sense. All right, she won't be getting more sheep to make fleece.
No.
Yeah. So those were my two
I haven't actually
main
processed
questions.
my Gotland.
Yeah.
Your two main questions?
That was my two main questions. Who are you going to process fleece for, and are you going to get more sheep? Until I come up with another question.
Okay, but I don't. Do we have much more to talk about?
No, I think you've covered it really well.
I think we've done lots.
I'm looking forward to following the progress when you get home.
Yeah,
it's going to be brilliant.
And I really want to say, Marina, thank you so much for
welcome.
Your generosity and your curiosity.
Oh, it's been brilliant. Joe and I have had a wonderful time. And
how many people would do that?
Oh, probably lots of people, but it's such a small world, and it is such a fabulous thing to, for all the ills of the internet, being able to connect people that are literally on the other side of the world, and we have so much in common. It's really quite wonderful.
And that's what we've talked about, is
so much,
it doesn't matter where you live in the world, you can find something in common with somebody else, and we all find our tribe somehow.
Yeah. And it all has to do with yarn, as far as we're concerned, and fleece.
Well, not only yarn, it's all crafting.
Yeah, and gardening, and what else? Reading books, and
sustainability.
Traveling. Yeah, we could go on
Real
quite a bit.
Sustainability.
We could go on quite a bit. But
but we
lovely.
won't. We'll be yakking after we finish this anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sorry about the boo-boo with the battery. I honestly thought there was a lot of battery there. But anyway, thank you for tuning in, and if you like the videos, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos, you might like to go back and see how I got the mill and our little journey all the way through that. So thank you for popping by.
Bye.
Bye.
And the mum was lying down, and her udder was all stretched out, and it looked like this big. She said, "Oh, what's wrong with her?" I said, "Nothing wrong with her. It's her udder, but it's stretched out over time because they're much long. The cow udders are rounder like this, but the sheep udders,